I'm Courtney Smith. I lead our digital strategy team at UWM. We've got about 70 people on our marketing team, and we work across 4 different brands. UWM is our main brand, but we work direct to consumer, B2B, on some national brands like Mortgage Matchup, and then our B2B brands, UWM. So my experience, I've been in the mortgage industry for just 5 years. Prior to that, I was in automotive, working at General Motors. So most of my background is in social media and paid media, and excited to share some of the latest best practices around social media. So I'll get started. You learned a little bit about me. Today's presentation, it's probably going to be like 35 minutes of social media best practices. And then if we have time towards the end, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. Today we'll talk about identifying your brand. I've walked through or pulled some things out on what's happening across every major platform. So hopefully if you're on one of those, you can have a couple of nuggets of takeaways there. And then content ideas. I know that when I'm working with clients, some of the biggest questions that I get is, hey, I know I need to post, I just don't know what to post. And there's a lot of tools out there today that make it easy. AI is obviously one of them, but there's a lot of tools that can help generate ideas, especially when it comes to trending ideas too. And then lastly, we've used a lot of tools here at UWM. Like I said, there's 70 of us just on the marketing team. And so we're always looking for automation tools, content automation, video automation. So there's 2 tools that I absolutely love that I'll share with you as well. So the first question I often ask when I'm meeting with clients is, what is your brand? How do you define your brand? And if you don't know where to start, especially as we think about kind of rethinking about setting your goals for 2026, the biggest question that I ask first is, who's your audience? And when you're building your brand, the first thing you have to do is really understand who your audience is and who you're creating content for, what your ultimate goal in reaching that audience is, right? And when I ask people to narrow down who their audience is, a lot of kind of pushback is, well, I don't want to limit myself to someone because that might turn away another audience. But one thing to keep in mind is when you niche down, you end up actually really being clarifying and knowing exactly who you're talking to and expanding and reaching a larger audience. And because of that, because people connect with people, they don't connect with people that kind of appeal to the masses, right? You likely follow someone on social media because you have a general interest in them, not because they're a real estate agent first, or not because they're a broker first. You have something in mind or something that you guys can relate to, right? So first, think about who your audience is. Think about, where they shop, where they spend time on social media, what their interests are, what their hobbies are. And if you can think about your last 10, 15 transactions, how would you describe who those people are? How did you find out who they are? How did they find you? And most importantly, what does the next 10 to 15 transactions look like? So where are you going to find those people at? So what does this look like? So actually, can you guys see the people on the side too? I want to make sure you can actually see my slides. Let's see. All right, I'm going to try to expand this. Can everyone else see the people, or you guys can see all of the slides?
We see the slides, but I don't see the people. I see where it
Okay,
says
good.
create for
Because
your
I just see
location. Okay.
everyone on the side and it's covering half the slide. So I'm
No,
glad
we
you.
see the slide.
Good. Okay. Thank you. So when it comes to creating for your audience, you guys can probably relate to this slide, right? If you think about who your audience is, they probably fall into one of these buckets on the left or on the right, or if you're lucky, it's a combination of something on the left and right. Many of you might say, yes, I work with first-time home buyers in my local neighborhood. I work with people that are looking for buying their second home, their investment property. So if you can get really, really clear about who your audience is, this is a really good example of, yes, these are the audiences that I create for, and then you can narrow it down and make it even smaller by tackling on your specific location and being really an expert for that audience in your local area. So the next thing that I'll talk through is how your brand comes to life. And there's a lot of ways that your brand can come to life, but the biggest thing that someone decides on whether or not to follow you is when they see your bio, right? And this is an example of an Instagram bio, but you should take all of these best practices across all of your social media platforms. Here is Jane. She's a real estate agent, mom of four. In her bio, she says, she loves helping families relocate to Charlotte with ease. She talks about local schools, neighborhoods, and market tips. It's very clear who Jane is after reading her bio, and I can decide whether or not I want to follow her or not because I might be moving to Charlotte. I might be a mom as well. I'm always looking for things happening around the neighborhood. So thinking about how you can appeal to specifically your audience is really important. And then the last thing I'll just call out here is you see a call to action here, DM the word move for a free relocation checklist, right? This makes sense. It's on brand. It goes right back to one of the things that she talks about often is helping families relocate. And by giving something of value, you'll hear me say a lot today, is it's really important, especially when there's a lot of content on social media and people don't expect to want to work with you if you don't give them some type of value. So this is a really good example of something that you can provide to someone as free and then also use it as a lead magnet down the road too. Another way your brand comes to life is just in general, all of your how your profiles show up. So branding is a really good indicator of whether or not someone will follow you when there's consistent branding across the board. And what I mean by that is, do you have the same profile photo across all of your channels? We know specifically Gen Z and millennials, they're going to do their research before they decide to follow you or before they decide to work with you. So branding is important. You want to make sure that the profile photo is consistent. You also want to make sure that that handle is consistent. You can see here, I don't know if anyone follows Realtor Caitlin, another really great element to this profile or to her pages is her brand is very sarcastic. It's dry humor. You can see in her bio, she says real estate for the delusion. She has a really great unhinged way on how to bring kind of her content to life, and that in itself is her brand as well. Another thing that I'll just call out is how you show up in your video content or your graphic content is important too. And we all have what we call decision fatigue. So make it easy, have a very consistent kind of the captions that you use, the font that you use, the colors that you use. I think when Joey was here, there was someone in class that shared, I always wear a green shirt or a pink shirt, right? And that can be branding in itself as well. How you show up in the content that you're creating for social media is branding in itself too. So let's talk about some channel best practices. So many of our clients are on Instagram today. Instagram is definitely one of the most visual platforms to be on, especially when it comes to real estate agents and I would say just financial services industry overall. There's a lot of things that Instagram has been rolling out. They're trying to keep up with the likes of TikTok. So if you're on Instagram, here's the latest and greatest you kind of have to know. The first is Instagram reposts. This is similar to what you would do on Facebook or on TikTok, where if you see a post that you like, you can basically repost it to your followers. What we're seeing from an algorithm standpoint is this is just another supplemental way. It doesn't replace posting, but it is another way to keep your followers engaged. And this reposted content just shows up in a second column on your profile. Reels is probably the number one piece of content that you need to be sharing and creating for. If you're comfortable with creating video content, short form video content, anywhere from 30 seconds to 60 seconds, this is really the sweet spot for Instagram and what you should be creating for. We know that Reels are more likely to be seen by people that are not following you. And our goal, right, on being on social media is to get in front of people that aren't following you. So once again, going back to your audience, think about the topics that they're interested in. Think about the common questions that they ask and make sure you're creating real content, video content on a regular basis every single day. So you're creating content that's going to get you in front of people that aren't already following you. And then stories and polls. So stories is the type of content you probably already know, but it disappears after 24 hours. So we think about using stories as a way to nurture and to create engagement with your current followers. So these people seeing your stories already know who you are. So this type of content should really be kind of that behind the scenes. It should be something that you do every single day. We tell our clients, maybe it's a market update every morning. What's going on with mortgage rates? What are the latest products people are rolling out? What are some pricing incentives that you should know about? So think about stories that you can post at least 3 times a day, something in the morning, something in the afternoon, something at night. It can be personal as well, but you want to make sure that you're in someone's feed in the morning, in the afternoon, and then in the evening as well. Carousels, we all are familiar with carousels. It's essentially a series of graphics or photos or something that you can post, right? We think about this content as content that's also going to followers that people are already following you. And so the goal for carousels is how do you get someone to save it? How do you get someone to share it with someone? The most important thing to think about if you're sharing carousels is that first image. It should have a really strong call to action or some type of hook that gets someone to swipe through. They don't have to be 20 posts. It doesn't have to be 20 images. It can be 3, it can be 5, it can be 10. But you want to make sure that you're creating content that someone's going to consistently swipe through. So think about infographics, think about something like a step-by-step guide, something that someone's going to want to go back to or share with a friend. And then the last thing about Instagram that we're absolutely loving is collabs. This is the only really platform that you can collaborate with multiple people. If this was 2013, Joey and I, if we took a picture together, I would post it on my profile, he would post it on his profile, and the views and the engagements would all be split. However, this time now we can collab with people and you can collab with up to 10 different people. So now that one photo is actually going to be on my profile and his profile, and all of our followers are going to see it together. So collabs are really important for referral partners or just in general, propping out people that you want to show love to. So today is Giving Tuesday. It's a really good example of something that you could all do today where you could collaborate or create a post around maybe some local charities. Anything that you could do to collaborate with people so that your content gets shown to their followers and vice versa. And then the last thing I forgot to mention, I wanted to add on here too, trial reels. So these are posts and videos that you can actually share on Instagram and almost A/B test them or test them with an audience that aren't following you first. So it's a great way to create content and to test the message a little bit before the video content actually goes to your followers. And what we'll do, you can create a video, you can publish it to trial reels, and then after 72 hours, you have a lot of great insights. It will automatically post to your followers if they deem it to be kind of viral or if we think it's going to do well. If you just decide that you don't want to post it after that, it doesn't have to go to your page, but trial reels is a really great way to kind of test things. We have clients that actually will record a video and it will be a video with a different hook in the beginning. So it'll be video A, video B, and whichever one does the best, they'll actually post with that one to their profile. So it's a great way to test and create new content and kind of get a little bit more comfortable if you're not as comfortable sharing content.
Imagine if you could ask your
I'm gonna skip through these videos and I will send these slides out as well. So if anyone has questions, you guys can have this too. But I know I have a 1 o'clock and I want to make sure that I can get through all of these slides for you. So the next one is Facebook. You guys are all probably on Facebook, so I won't need to go through the latest and the kind of the history of Facebook. It's probably one of the oldest platforms, but a couple of things that are updated on the algorithm. Earlier this year, Facebook has really prioritized, and they've come out publicly and said we're prioritizing specifically local groups and events pages. So if you're like me, when I scan through Facebook, I see a lot of content from my friends, my families, people I went to high school with, but I don't see anything from businesses. And I think that really goes to show what Facebook has really created. They've created this niche kind of conversation with smaller groups, but you're not seeing businesses really sell themselves. And this really came out of a couple of years ago when they kind of banned a lot of media and a lot of kind of long form journalism from the channel as well. And that's kind of changed and evolved over the last couple of years. But primarily, Facebook has remained a place where you see friends and families post. But that doesn't mean if you're a business that you're not going to grow. It just means your approach has to be a little bit differently. So If I was a real estate agent, I would want to make sure that I'm in every Facebook group that is relevant to my audience. I would want to make sure that I'm in every local group that is relevant for my audience. And then if I join those groups, it's super important that when I do join those groups, that I'm not just jumping in there and trying to sell myself. I want to make sure that I position myself as an expert. I'm providing someone value. I'm answering people's questions. I'm asking questions myself. I'm not going to go in there and just ask for business. I really want to create conversations and natural conversations so that people down the road, they know who you are. And when they realize what you do, they want to work with you because they like who you are and they're not going in there. I'm sure everyone has seen this when someone just jumps into a group and tries to sell, you're probably immediately going to get banned or kicked out of that group anyways. And then the other thing that I would recommend is creating Facebook events, whether this is an open house or whether it's an event for a holiday party. Make sure that you're creating Facebook events because this is something that the algorithm is favoring. And within that Facebook event, it's something that you could share to those local groups that you're in as well. And then the last thing, I've heard a little bit of mixed reviews on this. So just try it out if you haven't tried it in a while. Facebook Lives, those perform well and the algorithms do favor going live. However, you have to make sure that you promote the live in advance. Don't just go live and expect people to join in. So if you're going to do an open house this weekend, promote that you're going to go live from 12 to 2 or 12 to 4 or something like that. Promote it in advance and then make sure you have someone that is actually manning that live. They're going on there, they're asking questions, they're answering questions, they're doing a tour that you actually have. You don't just have a phone that's set up and you don't have the sound on, you're not answering questions. So have that live as an experience, just as you would in real life too. And then the next thing I'll talk about is long form. So if we think about social media, we think about it as, quick, short, snappy videos and captions. Well, that's no longer the case. It's really about long form telling a story. And it's okay if you tell a longer story like you can see here. Just make sure you chop it up. You use emojis, you use kind of breaks, bullet points, things like that, because people will read this content as long as it's engaging. And then just overall PSA, keep it positive. Social media tends to be a negative place, especially when it comes to long posts like this. So keep it positive. People want to hear and be inspired by positive stories. All right, so TikTok, I'm not sure how many of you are on TikTok, but it has changed tremendously over the last 5 years. It is no longer the place where people are just dancing and then kind of scrolling on. It is a place where people are making lots and lots of business ideas, business deals, and they're creating a lot of value. TikTok is really one of our best performing pages for one of our direct to consumer brands, both on the lead side and just overall brand awareness. And it's because of really this niche audience that when they're on there, they're entirely engaged. They're super engaged. And I would say it's a great place, especially if I was a real estate agent or a loan officer today, that I would position myself as someone with local expertise, but someone that you can relate to too. So a lot of the clients that I talk to, TikTok is totally a different approach than what they would do on Instagram. Instagram is still a little bit more polished, but TikTok is, hey, what did I do for the day? What are some things that are going on around the office? Here's kind of my day in the life. These types of posts do really well because people are just generally curious about what it is to be a real estate agent or what it's like to be a loan officer. So this is a really great place to just show up as yourself, record what you do on a day-to-day basis and talk about it because people see themselves in you and they tend to want to work with someone that they can relate to. So TikTok is a great place to show up as a relatable person. And then the other side is just there's a lot of great educational content in there. So like I said, think about the last 10 questions that you got from a borrower, or think about questions that you get on a regular basis and create just short video content answering this question. It is a platform that you need to post more regularly on. It doesn't have to be extremely polished, but it does have to be something that you post at a minimum 5 times a week for it to gain traction over time. There is a couple of new things that the algorithm is liking. Smart Split is a new AI editing tool that essentially if you create a long video, you can post it to your TikTok, but then if you use Smart Split, it will actually cut that video into smaller clips and post a multitude of clips onto your profile. So definitely give that a try out. You have to be a creator, a TikTok creator to actually be able to use that. But that's just changing kind of the type of profile that you have. And then in a couple of slides, I'll talk about Creator Search Insights, which is a really great insights tool that TikTok has come out with to show you exactly what people are searching for, relevant to your industry or relevant to a specific topic. And then last thing I'll point out is, and actually our TikTok rep probably 2 weeks ago now, came out and said carousels are doing really well. Carousels, and I'll just play this. I don't think somebody's playing it, you can hear it, but you can see here that there's carousels as well on TikTok, and it's something that they say is doing really well with the algorithm. So same approach that you would take on Instagram, make sure you have a really strong call to action or a really strong hook on that first visual to get people to swipe through. All right, and jumping into YouTube. So YouTube, Google owns YouTube, and Google is still, despite all the AI summaries and AI overviews happening, YouTube is still the best place to build search engine optimization. And if you are creating video content today, you want to make sure that YouTube is part of your strategy because it is a great place to build SEO over time. We think about YouTube a little bit differently. It's not a channel that we need to post every single day, but we do need to post on a regular basis that explains a certain topic. So what do I mean by that? It's evergreen. It means that if I post a video, this is a really good example, the truth about waiting to buy a home in 2025. This is a type of video that does really well and will do well over a period of time. It's not something that's going to go out of date after a week. It's probably something that someone could watch for a year, honestly, 2 years, and go back in time to learn a little bit more about the housing market. So think about your YouTube content, and I'll give you an example on the next slide, as something where you can establish authority and thought leadership, and is to be a really good place to drive search engine optimization. So YouTube horizontal, like you can see here, that is traditional YouTube. And then YouTube Shorts are the vertical videos. These tend to be under a minute. Both are important parts of your strategy, but if I were you and if I was creating video content, if I was creating a TikTok or Instagram, I would post that to YouTube Shorts too, no matter what. And then if I was creating kind of longer form video, I would post that to like a horizontal YouTube channel.
Let me tell you something.
Jump over that. And then this is what I was talking about, titles. So make sure that you're naming your videos a little bit differently than you would name it like traditional social media content. And a really good example of this is if I was posting let's say it was a sizzle video of my open house or something like that, or maybe it was a client success story, I wouldn't name that video just buying day because that has no algorithm. It doesn't give you any keywords. It doesn't tell the algorithms at all what that video is about, but I would name it How to Buy a House in Michigan, a step-by-step guide, or something like that, where it's actually including keywords so that someone knows if I search for something like this, this is a video that's going to answer those questions. The other thing that I'll call out specifically in this video example here, and this is an example of a YouTube short, is listicles are still really relevant. And if you ever are wondering how to start your video, think about the 3 things that you need to know or the 5 steps that you have to do before you buy your first home. People are really, we all have short attention spans. So if you just tell them exactly what you're going to give them before you give it to them, they're more likely to stay engaged during that entire time. BuzzFeed, I'm sure we remember that. Like BuzzFeed was really popular for a very long time because we all knew it was the 5 things you had to do or the 4 things not to do or the 20 things you have to avoid, right? And we love that type of content, and that's still really relevant even for video content.
If you're a first-time home buyer, the process of buying a home can be a little scary.
All right. And then the last channel I'll highlight is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a channel that it's especially important for B2B. We use it here on the UWM side of the house. It is especially important to stay in touch with our loan officers and any of our referral partners, but it's not necessarily the channel that consumers are going to look for a mortgage or to look to work with a real estate agent. So for us, it's an important channel to make sure that you have established thought leadership. You are who you say you are. But posting here less frequently here is okay. We tend to see office culture content do really well. And then LinkedIn is trying to position themselves as also a thought leader in the news. So if there's anything happening from a news cycle that you want to chime in on, the 50-year mortgage was a popular topic a couple of weeks ago, and we saw a lot of clients talking about what that looked like. I'm sure there's other things that are really relevant to your local markets. So find a way to chime in to just overall market trends. But like I said, you don't have to post on LinkedIn every single day. Make sure your profile is up to date. Make sure you've got a professional photo. But overall, posting here less frequently is okay. All right, so you've heard me say this a lot already, but make sure that when you're thinking about what to post, we think about educational posts, entertaining posts, and inspiring posts. Before we're ever going to ask for business, we're going to give our clients and give our audience something of value before we promote ourselves. So when we think about our content mix, it's typically 80% of that value and then 20% of that promotion. So what does that mean? It means if I'm creating a video, at the very end of that video, I'm going to go send you to my website or I'm going to give you something free. I'm not going to say, come work with me or go apply or anything like that. 20% of my content will be short, sweet. I'm going to ask for business, but 80% of my content is going to be something that I find interesting. Maybe it's something I'm personally interested in. I mentioned Giving Tuesday is a really good idea. I'm not asking for business. I'm just giving to maybe local charities, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So think about those ways to provide value before you're always asking for business. An example of how to do this in a consistent way, I mentioned 2026 is right around the corner, and one thing that we are doing here at UWM on a marketing level is we are setting our goals, but we're also resetting all of our content strategy. So one example of how we reset our content strategy is through something called content pillars. Every single one of the brands that we work across has content pillars. It allows our social media team, it allows our paid media team, it allows our email team to be very, very specific with what content that we share and how often we share it. An example of this is Carrie here. She works for ABC Realty. Her audience is first-time homebuyers, singles in their 20s and 30s, and recently married couples. Really good example here for Carrie. So she positions herself as the Pittsburgh neighborhood guide. Maybe right ahead of the weekend on a Friday, she always posts something that's happening in her local neighborhood. Then maybe on Monday, she's going to talk about any market updates. On Tuesday, maybe it's a behind the scenes of anything she did over the weekend. Wednesday, buyer, seller, just overall educational tips. And then on Thursday or something like that, she's going to talk about general listings, anything else that she wants to highlight. These are content pillars that Carrie has identified that once she's figured out how often she can post, so she's got 5 or 6 content pillars identified, she knows that she posts these things every single week and she remains consistent. If you set yourself up with content pillars, you never have to ask yourself what to post. You know exactly what's important to your audience, and it's something that you can post about consistently. The other thing I mentioned when I talked about TikTok is creator search insights. And you don't have to be on TikTok to use this, but I highly suggest you use it to come up with ideas. All you have to do is to log into the TikTok app. You have to type in creator search insights at the very top bar. And when you do, you'll see this, this first screenshot on the left where it says creator search insights. If you click on view, you'll see that next screen. And you can see now this was just based on general algorithm trends at the time. If you type in a keyword like a specific market or real estate or mortgages or anything like that, it will narrow down those keywords a little bit more. But my favorite part about this is if I clicked on content gap and then I clicked on, let's just say motivational speech, don't give up, or home ownership. If I was to click on one of those things, it would give me example videos and what people are actually searching for according to that topic that I should create video content for. So what content gap is it's TikTok saying that people are searching for this, but there's not enough content on the platform to answer their questions. Create more content. So if you don't know already, TikTok has its own search platform, search ads. They're trying to keep up with Google and Bing, and they don't want you to ever leave the platform. It's also why TikTok Shop has been so important too, because they've invested into search ads. So they have a lot of data around what people are searching for. Use this data to make sure that you're identifying and you're identifying really content gaps within your audience and within your niche. All right, and a couple of tools I wanted to highlight. A couple of slides prior to this, I showed you a bio that said DM the word move for that relocation checklist. And many of you have probably seen this in other, whether it's Instagram or Facebook Messenger or something like that. But there is a tool, it's called ManyChat, ManyChat, that is a really powerful tool that you can essentially set up these automations that the second someone comments on a post or a reel, they reply to a story, they click on a link, or they send you a message, you can create an automation to do whatever you set up. So the one example that I showed earlier, DM move for that relocation checklist, the second when someone goes to their profile and they're relocating to Charlotte and they want that relocation checklist, all they have to do is DM Jane and say, move, and then the automation comes into play and actually will send that link to them. The best part about this is now it's actually creating that one-on-one dialogue. And the best thing about this, if I was a real estate agent, I would just have an automatic, comment the word list to get my open house list, or creating a video that now I don't have to worry about, did someone see my video? If someone was generally interested, I can capture that lead. I can see that they commented it, the automation worked, and now I have that one-on-one direct message. It's a lot easier to nurture leads, to convert leads when they are in your DMs versus when you're just expecting them to comment or like your post or share your post. So ManyChat is not free. It's about a little under, depending on how many automations you set up, it's about 20 bucks, anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks a month, depending on how many automations, like I said, you have going. But it's a great place if you're creating content, if you're posting consistently and you want to actually have a type of lead flow. It's a great tool to set up, and they have a lot of templates already set up. So you don't have to go in and kind of create your own or do any coding or anything like that. All the templates are already there. And then the last tool I wanted to highlight is Opus Clip. This is a video editing tool that we use every single day here at UWM. We actually use it. We have a podcast, a vodcast. It's about 20 minutes long. And about a year ago, we would go to our video team after the vodcast was cut and we would say, hey, we want this video. We want this, 15 seconds to the 45-second mark. And then we want it to this to go here and here. And it would take our video team, a couple of hours to make those edits, to do the jump cuts smoothly, to add the captions and all of that. Well, now with Opus Clip, all we have to do is upload this 20-minute video and it will create 10 to 15 smaller videos for us, automatically captioned, automatically cut. The cool thing too is it gives it a viral score. So it'll basically look, does it have a captivating hook? Does it have something really interesting at the beginning that's going to get someone to continue watching? How long is it? And it'll actually give this virality score based on what they think that you should post. So we tend to look at, hey, it's created 15 posts for us. Let's take the top 5 with the highest viral score and post it to all of our channels. And that's exactly what we do. So this tool is about $9.99 a month, $10. It's not that expensive, but it saves us a lot of time. So you don't have to be creating 20-minute podcasts to use this. Let's say you have a podcast that you do or a video that you do with a referral partner that's even 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Don't worry about having to edit everything. Put it into this tool, let it edit for you, and let it decide based on AI what they think it will do the best, and test and learn from there. It's a really good example of, like I mentioned, trial reels. We want to make sure that you guys are saving. I know all of your time is valuable, so you have to find tools that's going to save your time, but also make sure that you're looking at content from a trend standpoint as well. All right, so I went fast. We'll definitely have some times for questions, and if you guys have them in the chat. But hopefully you took a couple of things away. Like I mentioned, I will share my slides so you have them too. The best thing to remember is these are what the algorithms are saying is important today, but algorithms change regularly. So if you learned anything, hopefully it's that value add. Make sure you are providing value to your audience, and you're learning from a couple of the algorithm best practices too. So